Hey, for the past couple of weeks, the leaders of our area schools have been working hard to develop safety plans for the winter sports season. It's no surprise that moving indoor for sports really causes concern given the pandemic that we're in. Earlier this week, I had a really good conversation with IHSA Commissioner Paul Neidig, and he was confident that local school officials could make the right decisions for their student athletes. He also noted that it was important to do everything possible to let the kids play in the safest environment possible. My role today is not to announce any government order, but to instead support our school leaders who've worked diligently these last several weeks to make really solid decisions that will ensure the safety of our student athletes. With that, I'd like to introduce Andy Owen from the EVSC.
Every year kind of presents a unique set of challenges or circumstances, but obviously this year there's never been a challenging year quite like this. As we finished our fall seasons, I just kind of like to share some of the successes. All of our high school sports finished their postseasons starting in August and just completing it. We're up to football being the remaining sport left, opening up their season this week for the IHSA postseason. The reason that these athletes were able to do it is because of the protocols and the guidelines that were set forth that they followed. They followed these protocols unlike many other people around. They did it with excellence and commitment and responsibility. The reason that they were the three main ones: washing your hands, social distancing, and obviously wearing of a mask, were the three main reasons that they were. There were many other things behind the scenes that our athletes, the community, and our families were able to do, such as practicing differently in cohorts, minimizing physical practices, minimizing the types of 11 on 11 or 5 on 5. Your touchdown celebrations with your teammates weren't there this year. After a spike or an ace in volleyball, you might not have seen the same celebration. So there was different tactics behind the scenes as well. The way that the teams met using Zoom and those other types of things were structures that we did. Traveling to and from a game using the seating charts to know where students are and contact tracing. All of these things just to stop and minimize the spread. I'd like to congratulate not only our teams and our players, but the community for helping us to get this far. We really believe in education-based athletics, along with all of the gentlemen behind me, that it's a big part of our community and it's a big part of our education. As we move forward and we look forward to the indoor sports, we look forward with abundance of caution. We're going to work with everyone behind us to get this done safely. At this time, I'll introduce Dr. Smith to go through what we're going to be doing indoors as a group that's committed behind you.
Thank you, Coach Owen, and appreciate everybody coming out this afternoon. First of all, certainly want to express our appreciation for our health officials in Vandenberg County. Their expertise and their level of collaborative efforts with our schools, I think, has allowed us to start school and to remain in school and complete basically the first quarter, which many school districts across our state and our region have not been able to do. We had the primary goal, as I'm sure our peers behind us had also, was to be able to start school and then be able to keep kids in school, and we could only do that if we put those mitigation strategies in place that kept our students and our staff safe. We also know how important athletics and extracurricular student or activities are for our students to mold our students into the outstanding citizens that we need them to become. And it's with that in mind, as well as with the mayor's efforts to continue to bring our entire community and region together. And I want to also stress that I think this is just emblematic of what Evansville stands for, our collaborative effort. There's not a mandate here, there's no leverage here, it's just acting in the best interest of our students and families that we are coming together to announce that for our indoor sports, we will limit the capacity of our spectators to 2 spectators for every participant. We do know that health officials stress that large crowds are very troublesome because of the spread that occurs when you have large events or large crowds. So we want to make certain that we do our part to keep our students, our athletes, our families, and our staff in a very safe environment. And I think it's also interesting to note that on the phone calls that we had, there was not a single entity that said, well, I stand behind you, but we're going to do this. I think that's important to note, and that's also one of those things that makes our Evansville community so strong and so great. I salute my peers. I appreciate the efforts that they've undertaken, they continue to undertake to keep all of our students and staff safe. And at this point in time, I'd love to turn it over to Dr. Hagan with the Evansville Diocese.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just a special thank you to Mayor Winnecke, the Vanderburgh County Health Department, Joe Grease and his wonderful staff, EVSC, and all of our area non-public schools in Evansville. Bishop Siegel and I are grateful for the collaborative approach and common vision to educate our students here in Vanderburgh County in the safest environment we can. I appreciate the efforts made during the fall season by our athletes, coaches, and staffs. I also really appreciate the sacrifices made by our families and fans, who are very energetic, who join us in our efforts to reduce the spread of this virus. In addition to all of the protocols we are making for indoor sports, we in the Catholic Diocese are applying these same mitigation protocols to all of our elementary athletic programs as well. I thank everyone for their continued patience and understanding as we continue to put our students first. Thank you. And I'd like to introduce Mike Allen from Evansville Christian Schools.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Mike Allen, and I'm the head of school for Evansville Christian School. And I just want to first of all say thank you to everyone that's here just for being in good community together. School is about so much more than just learning. It's also about playing too. And it's about shared experiences. And athletics is a critical shared experience for so many young men and women. When we all have a common goal, and that goal being seeing our students get to experience the joys of learning and playing together, then we get wherever we want to go faster. We couldn't be more excited as a school community to have experienced a really stable first quarter. But we can't rest on past success in looking to the future. So regarding winter sports, we are really excited that our student athletes will have the opportunity to compete. And while it may look slightly different, we are committed to the collective procedures that present the best opportunity for a complete season. So for all of our home competitions as well, we will be limiting spectators to 2 fans per student, athlete, and participant. And a variety of other pieces that we will be communicating specifically with our school community. But we stand in solidarity with this because it matters. As a community, it matters. And as a broader region, it matters. Our ECS families will be receiving more information on this in the next few days. But for now, we want the community to know that we are all in this together. Thanks so much. I'd like to introduce Kevin Kuntz, Evansville Day School.
Good afternoon. I want to take a moment just to thank the mayor and the deputy mayor for inviting all of the schools to come together, to communicate with one another, to be part of this collective. I think it's important. We talk to our students at day school, and I know all of these institutions talk to their students about being leaders in the community, that they're going to have to make sacrifices to be leaders, and this is yet another instance where we have to ask them to make sacrifices, to not have some family members or some other people at games, in order to be leaders in the community and to be young people who are going to demonstrate the way and the path, and we can follow their example and follow their leadership. And so we're very excited to give them that opportunity in some ways, even though it's disappointing in some ways to not have as many fans at the games and to not have a student section and some of the things that we've talked about collectively. I'm very grateful to the diocese as well, to Daryl Hagan and all his leadership. Our elementary school and middle school teams play in the diocesan leagues, and so they've instituted a wonderful plan. It was in many ways the basis of some of the planning that we did at Evansville Day School, and so we feel very comfortable because of this collective and because of these agreements, having our students participate in that diocesan league and with all of the other schools here in town. As a small school, we have some unique challenges. One of them is that in order to get competition at our size and at our level, we have to travel out of the city quite a bit. And we have to go to neighboring counties and other regions. And we're very committed to traveling well on top of being good with our home games. We are talking to our students about and our coaches about how do we travel, how do we lessen our contact as we're outside of the city limits, and make sure that we're lessening the spread and lessening the risk to our students, to our coaches, to our families, and the risk of bringing something back into our city, into our county, and encouraging spread in that way. And so I'm very grateful for everybody who's here, for this collective, for all of their efforts. And we at Evansville Day School are very proud to be part of this community and look forward to continuing to collaborate to battle these difficult situations and these new and unique challenges. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I also would like to thank the gentlemen here today and all of the organizations that have spent a great deal of time working together, working with the Vanderburgh County Health Department. Dr. Spear has a saying that our health department is a neutral convener, and we like to recognize our partnerships with the mayor, with all of these different schools, and not only that, but also within our region, the other local health departments, and that's key, because this is going to take an effort that is combined and something that we all have to be a part of. So I think these decisions are important. They show that we're trying to ensure the safety of our student and student athletes here in Vanderburgh County and hopefully beyond as well. As we know, the data here in Vanderburgh County, Southwest Indiana, has shown an increase in number of cases as of late, and we have to make sure that we make these types of decisions to ensure safety of our community. And we know that when we're inside, when we're in large groups, the spread, the potential of spread of COVID-19 can increase. So limiting these events to those who can attend will drastically reduce our risk in these situations. So I think this is a really good step forward to try to limit our exposure here for, again, our student athletes. The health department really appreciates these partnerships. We continue to work with everybody, and it's very impressive to see all these folks and all these groups work together, because without that collaborative effort, I don't think a lot of this would come off. So again, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here and being able to work together. It does make our job as the public health department a little bit easier when we have folks that can get together and do these types of things. So thank you, Mayor.
We haven't taken any questions now.
Student fans for student athletes, can you talk about bands, cheerleaders, student managers, ball boys, ball girls? Are they now as student athletes, or?
That's a great question. And in the beginning, in the fall, support staff on your bench, we've tried to minimize. Obviously, student managers and those types of things, plus cheerleaders, have a great role in games, and not trying to lessen that activity, but already proactively, the years of having 3 or 4 student managers and those type of things, it's quoted as essential personnel right now. But if they're a member of that team and they're a student manager, and they're a part of that event, then we would provide 2 tickets per each person there, and our cheerleader as well. We are looking at things, the squads of large cheerleaders, they'll probably do a better job of covering more games with not as many cheerleaders at one, but they'll have their squad there, and the girls will get to cheer, absolutely. The pep band and those being discussed right now, I can only speak for the EVSC, there's some issues with the pep band just playing and being able to think that they could do that this year among themselves, wanting to know if they can safely go about that activity and follow all the protocols. So we're not quite sure there yet, but as of right now, it would be 2 tickets per participant. And we would call a student manager and we would also call a cheerleader and the basketball players obviously participants. Does that help? But essential personnel would be best.
I have a question. A lot of people up here at the high school level, obviously, is this sort of maybe recommendation only at the high school level, but are middle school, maybe elementary youth events included in this?
I believe, at least with EVSC and the Catholic Diocese, we are committed to doing this in our middle school and in the elementary programs that we have. We want to be consistent with these protocols to mitigate the spread of the virus.
I suppose I have a question as well. With football playoffs this week and going forward, are there any concerns for our local schools traveling to other parts of the state for their games?
So if you look at the state's map right now, Southwest Indiana is, we're turning orange, going from blue or to yellow to orange. Actually, I think Posey County turned red today. So there is some concern there. We are in contact with the other local health departments in our district. We work with them very closely. We know that they're working very closely with the school corporations within their counties. And there are each county makes their decisions, based on, what they feel they can do safely. But we know and we share what is happening here, especially in the situation coming up with winter sports. We have shared all of that information with the other counties. I know that these gentlemen have conversations with other school corporations, other athletic directors, and so a lot of that work is continuing and will continue so that we can ensure safety, not only here in Vanderburgh County, but in our region. This is really a regional issue, and we have to work together to ensure that we try to limit our risk and our exposure and spread here as a region.
While you're still up here, can you talk to us about sort of maybe the differences with indoor winter sporting events? I know we obviously talked about fans, so the social distance in the stands, but what about the athletes? What about the coaches and things like that? Does anything worry you being in such close quarters?
So the idea of athletic competition, close contact, is a different level than just somebody maybe standing within 6 feet of somebody for 15 minutes. That can increase the risk, but because of what has been done within the walls of these schools and how well they've been able to spread out and the things that the schools have talked about with their students, with their families, their parents, all of that really helps to mitigate the risk. Wearing masks, sitting on a bench, coaches wearing masks, things of that nature, all those different things like Andy Owens said, behind the scenes type of things that are happening helps reduce that risk when they're actually participating.
Players, participants, they will be wearing masks if they're on the bench.
I believe that's right. Yes.
Will there be different guidelines for different sports? Saying the guidelines for swimming may be different from the guidelines for basketball, so on and so forth.
So each sport is going to be specifically different than the other. So our winter sports will have swimming and diving, both boys and girls. We'll have wrestling, and we'll have both boys and girls basketball. Just talking about the venue at Lloyd Pool, all of our teams that have swim teams all in southern Indiana and our city would swim at Lloyd Pool. We already know there it will not be 2 tickets per spectator, it'll be 0. We're already working on ways to stream those, but because due to the facility, there's just not a possible way to put any fans in there that's fair or safe for our student athletes. So when we talk there, it's going to be obviously swimming's going to be different as far as spectators. As far as all of the guidelines and the protocols to minimize, it's not going to change social distancing, wear a mask, and those type of things, washing your hands. But the contact tracing in all three are a little bit different. Obviously in wrestling, one-on-one next to your partner, going face-to-face, close interaction, when we go back to our contact tracing, that is easily going to be who the contact trace was. In swimming, we do not think if we can socially distance the right things, there's not a whole lot of contact tracing in the swimming if we're following the right protocols and guidelines. Whereas in basketball, it's going to be very similar to football, that if you're out there in close interaction face-to-face, we're not only going to be using the 6 feet and 15 minutes, but just that contact close interaction face-to-face. So all players out there blocking out, guarding each other, those type of things, you have to look at that and make your decision on contact tracing. So basketball, I think you could see with one positive, the possibility, it's only a possibility, that we could put more people out due to contact tracing, whereas in wrestling, it would just be whomever wrestled that person, and in practice, they're only going to wrestle with that person. We feel like we can kind of limit our contact tracing. So each sport has its own individual protocol and guidelines due to contact tracing, and spectators will be a little different in swim.
Wrestling is 100% happening?
Wrestling, yes. The EVSC plans to wrestle. The families, it's just like any other sport. The family has to know the risk that's involved, and it's our job as athletic directors and educators to make sure that the families and the students know the risk. And all of our families had in the fall, and they do in the winter, and they're willing to see the reward from playing, and they're willing to see that we're educating them on all the protocols that we're following to try to minimize the risk, and then they decide to play. And hopefully, like I said, there are possibilities that cases could arise, and there are possibilities that some schools they might not. So just educating the family on the risks, letting them make the best decision for their child.
Hey, this isn't necessarily for you, Owens, it could be for anyone. Have you guys talked to any of these schools in local counties, say, schools in Warren County? I know Castle's over in Newburgh, South Gibson, North Mosey, stuff, things of that nature.
Having 26 Catholic schools in 8 counties in southwestern Indiana, I am constantly on the phone with all of these counties and their health departments. And we're trying to follow the same protocols that they want for their county, or stricter if we feel that we want, again, to do what's best for the students we serve. But yes, I'm in constant contact with all of them.
With regards to the limited capacity, what about college recruiters? What is the situation there?
So we work together with the Southern Indiana Athletic Conference, and what we have decided this year, as far as you mean college recruiters, not during the school day, you mean a college basketball coach that wants to come watch a Division I talent here at Ball City High School. We will work with them to let them understand the educational opportunities and possibility of them being able to sign in. We have a little spot where administrator, so we might have one administrator out, remove them from helping work that door, and then that college recruiter might be able to get in that night. But as far as scouting, let me make sure you understand this. The days of all of our staffs coming to watch a Ball City Rights basketball game and Vincent's and day school and all of their coaches being here, there will not be. That's not essential personnel. But we do feel like someone at post-secondary education and at the college level that it can give a kid an opportunity. As long as they call ahead and communicate with us, we're going to find an opportunity to get them in the building. The one or the two, we kind of think gives that kid the opportunity, and we appreciate them being in the building and could also possibly put them to work in some type of role. So we'll lessen somewhere and maybe give them the addition. But as far as high school coaches coming and recruiting, it's essential personnel. It goes back to that word. And obviously, we do not want COVID to deprive any kid any opportunity of possibility of moving on. It's good for the school and it's good for the community for them to be here.
Mayor Winnecke, just a question, with the rising case numbers throughout the city, really consistent over the past couple of weeks, was there any really doubt in your mind that you were not going to allow, or maybe a recommendation, or sort of how do you justify allowing this?
So I know for a fact that the EVSC and the Vanderbilt County Health Department have weekly calls, so I know that they're in constant contact, and I know that the diocese is as well. Dr. Smith and I have had this discussion about fans and stands in general for several weeks. It became very apparent that the schools were going to be very understanding and come to an agreement on their own. And I mean, that's what great educators do, and they're modeling a great path for their student athletes.
In the guidelines that are set up, is there a protocol in place to potentially postpone the season if the COVID situation gets too out of hand?
It's a great question, and I think all of our families in the community need to be aware, yes, that there is a possibility to postpone. Safety is going to be number one, whether you're in the EVSC, the diocese, or any of our other schools behind you. Safety number one of the community, then of our student athletes. So, yes. We're in orange, and we want to continue to play. Everyone behind me wants to continue to play. Our students do. Hopefully we can model what needs to be done in our gymnasiums. We'll continue to get back into the community so that the numbers will go down because, yes, I look at that with abundance of caution and say, can we continue to play and do it the right way? I believe that we can as of right now, but if things got to that point, I know that all of us would put the safety of our students in the community at first, and there could be a postponement at a certain school at certain times, and then we get back on track and hopefully can return to play safely.
We talk about fans coming in here. Is there any sort of plan, contact tracing, will they have to fill out any forms, seating a pod, anything like that?
We do not. We follow the IHSA and the CDC. They've worked together kind of for guidelines that came out yesterday. Most of them were about basketball, I will say, more than wrestling and fans and spectators. And there is not our responsibility to contact trace with the people in the stands. We're responsible for our student athletes and game administration.
I know during football season, teams locally will sometimes schedule a team from across the river in Kentucky. Will that still be allowed for winter sports?
That would be, I'm going to turn that over to our health department, but for us, as far as scheduling and those type of things, we have concerns, obviously, whom we're bringing into the community. So for the EVSC, we're working with the health department each week to let them know what we're hosting, what communities are coming in. They obviously know we have enough work to worry about our own students in our own schools that they kind of educate us on where they are in that community, especially if we're going somewhere. We host big basketball tournaments and those type of things. The guidelines are going to be different this year. There's no loophole to where you can get more people in or anything like that. It's going to be 2 regardless of the event, whether you're at a 3rd grade or whether you're at the sectional championship. But is that, sorry.
Yeah, no, the Vanderbilt County Health Department has a relationship with the Green River Public Health District in Western Kentucky, which includes obviously Henderson County, Owensboro. Everywhere's different. Everywhere has to make their own decisions, and we're going to work with our schools here. And if those questions come up and if there are concerns, we will absolutely sit down and review numbers with the Green River Health District, with our own numbers here, and try to make the best decision that we can. I can't say that that has been done as of right now, but I think those conversations will probably happen before you start to see teams come across the river either way and start to play each other. So.
And perhaps to clarify something, are there new guidelines for the winter sports? And if so, will the AVSC or any of the associated officials here be releasing those guidelines to the public?
Those guidelines are released by the IHSA. They were
okay.
And so it's available on their website, and we shared with all of our coaches. It's more of guidelines and protocols to follow as far as bench workers, how many people are at your bench, how you're, besides just the clock management, how your bench will sit, wearing a mask and those things. So you can email me and I can send you each sport, winter sport, the IHSA finally updated it 2 days ago.
Okay, thanks everybody. Appreciate it.